How are you, everybody? I am Kevin Ioli. Man, I am racking up these big-time guests recently. My guest right now, I know don't need me to introduce him. One of the greats in the WWE, former Intercontinental Champion. How many times were you the tag team champion?
9, 10 times. It's hard to keep track of, but
it was pretty good. But this guy has done pretty well. My man, Big E. Big E, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Kevin. Like I was telling you before we got on, I know a bunch of mutual friends in the space, Andreas Hale and whatnot. So I've heard your name, so it's a pleasure to finally get to speak to you.
It's absolutely good to meet you as well. I actually saw you at the Crawford Sean Porter fight. I'm a good friend of Sean Porter's, and so great performance by you that night, which was something else. I know you're a big boxing fan, so we're going to talk about that unbelievable Riyadh season card that's going on. So many good fights that I have been excited about. Before we get into that, just WrestleMania is going to be in Las Vegas. And what is this, WrestleMania 50 now, I believe?
So we're at WrestleMania 41 now.
41. Right? So I covered WrestleMania 9 many, many moons ago at Caesar's Palace, before kayfabe was even broken. So that was it was kind of a fun experience. Going to be a lot different spectacle at Allegiant Stadium than I think it probably would have been at Caesar's Palace back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited about it. Everything in WWE has been so hot this past couple years as well. So yeah, it's going to be a great card. A lot of big names for sure. The Rock was heavily involved last year at WrestleMania. We'll see if he's involved at all, but no, we're excited. And I get the cool thing now for me in this role is I do the pre-shows and post-shows for all the PLEs, or what we used to call pay-per-views. So it's I get to be a fan again. I get to cover the card, and I have a lot of fun with that. So I really enjoy it.
That is awesome. Now, for people who don't know, you were a college football player. You played at the University of Iowa, not surprisingly, given your size, defensive tackle. And you went into powerlifting after that. And I'd say not half bad at 529-pound bench lift, right? Kind of decent.
It's okay. Not too shabby.
Yeah, I kind of throw that around just, when I'm kind of warming up. But hey, seriously, what about the fact, did you ever consider fighting yourself? I know you're a hardcore fight fan. What about MMA? A guy that is big and as strong as you. Did you ever think about it?
Man, no, not once. So mind you, I am maybe 5'11". I'm about 255. So, as far as MMA, you're fighting like Stefan Struve is a 7-foot fighter at heavyweight. Yeah. You have guys, Daniel Cormier was able to do it around my height, but you're talking about one of the best American wrestlers of the last, 10, 15, 20 years. So, I never, as much as I love the sport, I wrestled in high school. I never was enough of an elite wrestler or an elite striker. I never got into striking to think, hey, I can really make a go of this. But as you mentioned, I'm an avid fan. I love watching the fights, MMA and boxing, and now getting to be involved. You mentioned Sean Porter earlier when we were talking, and becoming friends with Sean, getting to do his walkouts, getting to do the intros for Fury Wilder 3, a fight that a lot of people didn't really want at the time, but ended up being a classic.
One of the best fights I ever saw.
Yeah. So for me, I know, hey, my job as far as my participation in combat sports, I want to be the one doing the intros. I want to be the one, being involved with the entertainment side of the sport. But I have so much respect for fighters. They have the heart that honestly I don't have. I don't have that kind of heart, but I'm definitely a fan.
Yeah, it is amazing stuff. Well, this card in Riyadh is one of the most amazing cards that boxing's put together. I covered boxing for 40 years, really starting in the 80s at a high level. But when I was in the 70s, still in college, I got a full-time job at a paper, and I used to cover the shows at a Howard Johnson's when they would have basically farmers going out there and getting into it. So, so that I've been doing this a long time. And I only can think of like those Don King shows in the 1990s where he would rack off 6, 7, 8 world title fights that were anything close to this. And some of these fights, the main event, undisputed light heavyweight title fight, Artur Beterbiev is $1.30 favorite over Dmitry Bivol, who's $1.05. They fought in October. Phenomenal fight. Now they're rematching. I love the fact that we're getting this right now for whatever reason. What's your take on that fight? Who do you like, Beterbiev or Bivol?
It's another coin toss. I want to see a third, so I think I'm rooting for a Bivol decision, and a close decision here. I love the first fight. It's a great fight. Those guys are so evenly matched. Man, it's this card top to bottom is just so immensely stacked. But at the very top, this is a fight I think that is worthy of the main event. I love the backstory of Beterbiev. The stuff he does with the wrist strength and his training, I think, is so unique. Man, they're two gritty fighters. I love the way Bivol works at range. It's a great fight. It's a great fight. It feels like a toss up to me.
The one thing I was going to say was I think Beterbiev has more room for improvement than Bivol in this fight, right? From my standpoint. Whereas in the first fight, I thought I had Bivol winning the fight. I thought it was 7-5 Bivol. I thought Bivol fought almost a perfect fight. Whereas, it seemed to me like Artur started a little bit slow, and maybe, he can actually maybe pick up the pace a little bit and go more to the body. Would you agree with that from what you saw the last time?
Yeah, I definitely think so. The slow start, I think, definitely hampered him, and I think a lot of people were kind of in your ballpark. It was a very close fight, but I also gave the edge to Bivol. But yeah, I think Beterbiev working to the body a little bit more will definitely benefit him. I also start to think, he's no spring chicken. When does age finally start to creep in? We haven't seen that in his performances quite yet. Like I haven't seen him slow, and you wonder if this is that moment. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see if he does commit to the body a little bit more in this fight.
As an athlete yourself, you know what it's like to be injured and come back. His body has been breaking down a little bit. He's had to pull out of a lot of fights, right? Last June, he was supposed to fight Bivol as opposed to October, and he had that knee surgery. That has to be a concern, I would think.
Yeah, and when you have guys and you hear these legendary stories about how hard they train, and you hear a lot of those stories out of Beterbiev's camp, and he's training in Montreal, I believe.
In Montreal, yeah.
Yeah. And you start to wonder, like, all that hard training, like, when does the fighter have to start paying the piper on that? But my hope is that we see two fighters in the ring who are healthy. You're always going to be dealing with some level of injury or being a little hurt coming in. But I want to see the two of them at the very best, because it really is a great fight, one that fight fans have been anticipating for quite some time.
The co-main event is interesting too. It's funny that I say this is a co-main event. Normally, a heavyweight title fight is always the main event of the show, and it shows you how good Beterbiev and Bivol fight is expected to be. That it's the co-main event. But Daniel Dubois is the IBF champion. He is minus 300 now over Joe Parker. And I wrote a piece on Joe Parker last night, and Dubois to me is the deserved favorite, but Joe Parker, there's kind of this aura about him now. He beat Deontay Wilder, had a good fight with Zhang. He is looking much more confident than I think he's been in a long time. I give him a shot to pull off the upset here. How do you like this one going, E?
I think I like Dubois here too. But what I love about the heavyweight division right now is I feel like you have a lot of guys who are flawed on paper. Usyk aside, who I feel like is clearly the king of this division.
Yes.
You have so many guys you can make fun fights with because there are holes in their game. And I think a lot of people wanted to call Dubois a quitter and wrote him off a few years ago. But to see his performance the last few fights, like I'm really impressed with what he's doing. And I'm taking Dubois on Saturday.
Interesting. I like Dubois' talent. I picked him out 4 or 5 years ago and said this guy was going to be a big star, and one of my few predictions that came true. But the one thing that concerns me, Joe Parker can take it. Joe Parker's got that chin, and Daniel, Jarrell Miller fight, Kevin Lorena fight. He came back to win, and that says a lot. Like Tito Trinidad used to go down, but he came back and won the fights. Would that be a concern of yours at all? The fact that, at a heavyweight level, if your chin's questionable?
Oh, absolutely. Like, we've seen Dubois hurt multiple times. I think maybe he's a guy whose heart we've underrated a little bit. But yeah, we've seen him fight back. But yeah, he's definitely susceptible to getting touched. No one would accuse him of having an iron chin. But that's what makes his fights a lot of fun for me. I think his defense is going to be paramount on Saturday. But yeah, we'll see if he can end up being defensively sound. But yeah, his chin is definitely a bit of a liability.
Another heavyweight title fight, interim heavyweight title fight for the WBC belt on the card. Zhilei Zhang is plus 135 against Kabayel. And I think when, maybe 23, not too many people thought of Kabayel as a potential world champion. But boy, this guy has looked good and better and better each time out. And I think he's a deserved favorite over Zhang, but Zhang is so freaking big and strong, and that incredible chin and that punching power. I mean, I honestly, I think the odds are good here. I think this one is a coin flip. How do you see that?
I think so too. I think no one's going to accuse Zhang of being the fastest puncher
No.
in the world, but that size and strength is definitely formidable. Again, it feels like a toss up to me. Push comes to shove, I'll probably take Zhang, but I'm expecting it to be a fun fight. I'm expecting to see several knockdowns in that fight as well. I don't think this is going to go to distance, but push comes to shove, I'll go Zhang.
You referenced Beterbiev's age, 40, he's 40, going to be 41. Zhang is 41 as well. So he's kind of, making the last stand, one or two more fights, and I think he is going to be gone. Kabayel, I think, has a chance, right? Nobody thought, but to me, like, he has a chance. If he can win this fight, I think all of a sudden people got to start looking at him a little differently because, look at who he's beaten. Look at, coming off that win over Frank Sanchez, a Cuban guy who's highly trained by Eddie Reynoso, and you beat him the way Kabayel did. I think if he wins this fight against Zhang, I think you have to say he is a legit opponent for Alexander Usyk.
Yeah, I mean that's I think the fun part about this card is trying to determine who's next for Usyk. I think for a while we had a bunch of clear contenders,
Right.
but now for me, I think there's a little bit of mystery. So I think this Saturday will be a great opportunity to see what heavyweight is going to emerge to be the next fight for Usyk. So I'm excited to see how he performs and if he can indeed get the finish that he needs to get the Usyk fight.
Now, I'm looking at this card, and I know we don't have much more time, so I just want to get to one, maybe two more fights, and so many great ones. But I'm going to bring up Shakur Stevenson because I think Shakur. I was in Rio when he fought in the Olympics, and I saw all the major promoters there. They were all fawning over him. Floyd Mayweather himself was there and was fawning over Shakur. And I think it's fair to say he has the talent to be the best fighter in the world. What's been coming out, he's gotten booed his last two fights. Both of them were, hey, let's be honest, like they were bad fights. Artem Hartunian and Edwin De Los Santos fights were not entertaining fights. I think he has something to prove going in. He was supposed to be fighting unbeaten Floyd Schofield, and that would have been an interesting fight. Floyd fell ill. So Josh Padley is in. Josh Padley beat Mark Chamberlain last time out, and Mark Chamberlain is his Excellency Turki Al-Ashik's favorite fighter. So Padley wins that fight by wide margin. He ends up accepting a fight with Shakur Stevenson on 72 hours notice. Just incredible stuff. The odds are minus 4,000 for Stevenson, plus 1,400 for Padley. Any chance at all for Padley here, or is this like a pass because of the number?
No, there's no shot. But Shakur needs a great performance. He really does. I think a lot of people, again, we've remarked about Shakur's talent for years now, and like as next guy up. But now at this stage in his career, we can't be banking on your future potential. We need to see it in your performances now. And like we've heard about his talent. We all know how talented he is. But I don't know if he's too concerned about looking slick, looking stylish, but we're looking for him to engage a bit more. We're looking for him to sit down on his punches a bit more, and to see him on the outside, to see him not be as active as we like is really, really disappointing for a guy with that immense amount of talent. We haven't seen him have the stoppages that we really wanted to see that make you a superstar. A lot of the beauty of Tank's game is he's getting these highlight reel finishes time and time again. And we're looking for that for Shakur, or at least a dominant performance and putting your man away at the end of the fight. But I'd love to see Shakur sit down on his punches a bit more. I'd love to see him be willing to, obviously you want to see him still be defensively sound, but to be able to maybe willing to take one or two to end up really delivering, a finishing sequence. So I'm really excited to see what Shakur does. I think a lot of us are like, the time has got to be now for Shakur. We can't see another lackluster performance because in order to make those big fights, if you want to be this box office draw, if you want to be the name that everyone in boxing is talking about, you need to have performances that are highlight reel finishes. And I think it's a golden opportunity for him on Saturday to do that.
his buddy Terrence Crawford, way back in the day, Shakur probably doesn't remember this, didn't get the respect, and people, who is this guy, and he's from Nebraska, guys from Nebraska can't fight, blah 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 blah. And Terrence Crawford just said, you're all full of it, I am the best in the world. And he just kept proving it, fight after fight after fight. And I think that, this is kind of like the time where, Shakur has to, do his thing, or he's not going to be the guy. I think this is the time now. He's got to get rid of Josh Padley, in my opinion. And then he's got to make a call out to one of the guys, to Tank Davis, or a Devin Haney, or those kind of guys. Get one of those guys into the ring, maybe Keyshawn Davis, who just won the title. But somebody like that, I think he's got to get himself in the ring with next.
Absolutely. We've been talking about like the four princes in this era of all these guys, but I want to see them fight each other. That's what we want. We want to see Shakur and Tank. We want to see these big fights. It's not Shakur of 5 years ago, where I think he should be fighting. We want to see him against the big names. So I think it's going to take a great performance on Saturday for people to really be clamoring for that.
I've taken up enough of your time, so I'm just going to get a quick comment on this one, and we will let you go. And Big E, I appreciate you, like you don't know, like you cannot believe. But Vergil Ortiz versus Israil Madrimov in a super welterweight title fight. To me, this could be the main event on any boxing card anywhere. Ortiz, 21-0 with 20 knockouts, is minus $1.25. Madrimov, who's coming off a very competitive loss to Terrence Crawford, is even money at plus 100. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I like Vergil a lot. I actually got to do a celebrity all-star football game with Vergil. Got a chance to talk to him. Was really impressed with the way he came off. I'm rooting for Vergil in this fight, but Madrimov, man, had a better showing than I think a lot of people expected against Bud. This is like a fight fan's dream. This card is just stacked with so many. 4 or 5 fights could be pay-per-view main events on this card, if not every single fight on this main card. So I'm really excited for this one. I'm pulling for Vergil, but Madrimov is not. He's going to bring the fight. He's going to be aggressive, and I'm excited to see that.
That is going to be an intense fight. It is going to be intense. April 19th, April 20th in Las Vegas for WrestleMania 41. Big E will be there. It's going to be quite the show. My man, I appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your day. Great stuff with these picks. We'll see how you do. And hopefully I can chat about the fights again soon.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate you.
Be well, brother. See ya.